87% of the people groups in India are unreached, meaning they don't have indigenous churches there that can evangelize their own people. That's what unreached basically means. 1/6 of the world population are Indians. Hinduism and Buddhism both started there. About a 6% Christian population, but that's if you include virtually anything that would put a Christian label on itself. 2.1% Protestant, and even less percent, which we'll get to in a second, in the area that we've been working. Okay, in theory, there's religious freedom, and we found that to be true. We didn't get any hassles. We didn't get any people trying to drive us away. We didn't get the police or the army involved. It's an accessible place. It officially has religious freedom. So here it is, all these people, all these unevangelized, and they're open to the gospel. At least the worship service is conducted in Bengali. Most of the churches in West Bengal that are Christian churches, the worship service are conducted in English. And so, from my point of view, that is not going to win the people. I think you need churches being raised up that are indigenous, both in culture and language and music and all the rest, if you're going to be long-term successful. As it is now, a lot of them are in the English medium, which I think for the long term is. And these guys were, each and every one of them, collectively and individually, a huge blessing, both in ministry to the Bengalis and the children and all those who were there, and personally to me. I've said some things before, but I can go down this list myself and just say how each one blessed me individually, but that would take too much time. And suffice it to say, these guys were great. This was a really good team. They worked well together. They worked well in the midst of hardship and uncertainties and plans changing and things going awry. And difficult work, very difficult work. We had to prepare things on the fly oftentimes. We had to get organized in a hurry. So it was a tough couple of weeks, but these guys just were the most awesome. Okay, so there we are. You got their names in front of you there. And this was at the time when we were ready to head out from Unger's house in Vancouver to drive up to Vancouver, BC, where we would spend the night with Gary Barnard's sister and her husband, who put us up for the night before we took off from Vancouver, BC. Oops, that's the wrong way. There we go. And we had to travel from Vancouver, BC to India by way of Shanghai, China, and then Kunming. And we spent a night and a day in Kunming. And while we were there, we got to see a couple of places. We went on a tour to a huge Buddhist temple with some 500 carved potatoes, I believe, on this big knife that just sits on this wood block and can cut your fingers so easy with that. He was our cook, and he's been with Sue Joy for quite a long time. We brought some gifts with us to give. You'll see Sue Joy kind of to your right next to Sam Cain there, and two of their daughters, Sharon and Julia, standing next to John there and in front of Daniel. They're teenagers and very intelligent ladies, wonderful, awful lot of fun. Kay Kyung, Sue Joy's wife, is in the foreground to the right, holding the coffee maker that John brought for her. I think the team got to meet some of the local neighbor kids while we were there on Sunday, go out and take a few pictures, get to know some of the locals. You get a bit of a feel for the neighborhood where Grace Community Center is. We stayed, the men did, right at the center, and the women stayed at Sue Joy and Kay Kyung's place a few blocks away. And so they're getting to know and mingle. We ate Bengali food by and large, with a few exceptions, which consisted mostly of rice, of what they call dal, which is potatoes, some kind of meat. We'd go to preaching points on the boat, we'd come back in the boat, come here, and then sleep for the night. And there was showers there, which was nice. And some of the preaching points were a little less accessible than others. Several times we had to do this mud walk thing. If you ever get to see Daniel's video of it, you'd have to ask him about this. Sanjeev is on, the guy in the red scarf on your left. He carried John Unger, or tried to, through one of these mud things that didn't exactly end well. And there we are getting our feet washed off. These guys served us in so many ways. This was a perfect example. He's using local grasses to wash our feet with, along with water. So Sanjeev is. Sanjeev was Sue Joy's kind of right-hand man. He's also a pastor and is wanting to get a church started in the Sundarbans and ultimately minister full-time there in the Sundarban Islands. He has a wife and a baby. And here's Gary playing around with the locals. Do you guys know what that stuff on the lower left is in front of Gary? It's not McDonald's hamburgers. That's cow poo that they form up into little patties and dry out and use for fuel. John had a bit of a mishap, cut his toe at one place, and so I'm trying to beat Dr. Chris there and help John with his toe. And again, there's Daniel Cohn was our entertainment to get the crowd warmed up, both with juggling and gymnastics. He worked really hard, and we were glad to have Daniel to get the crowd kind of loosened up for the gospel. I said these guys went out of their comfort zone a lot, but I'm not sure that's Peter needed to go out of his comfort zone. I think that is his comfort zone. He was really good. Well, lots of preaching points, 8 preaching points in all, many people professing Christ. Now, who knows what happens to them when we leave, whether they'll stick or not? That's up to the Bengalis to follow up on. Here's me denying the salvation to Daniel Cohn. He's refusing to accept
no, you're offering
Christ's crown. No, yeah, but he's the one who walked away, so I had to send him out.
Oh.
Yeah, I was Jesus most of the time, which didn't make any sense since he was like 25 years younger than me when he went to the cross, but I guess somebody had to do it. So here you see again the various people, and afterwards we'd have a little bit of a meet and greet time with folks until we had to leave. Just say whatever we could say in Bengali, show them some family pictures. These people were very gracious, very friendly, very loving towards us. Whether they came to Christ or not, they were very, very open to us being there. Little puppet shows going on at some of these preaching points. This was at near a school, so you see the little kids on the left in their uniforms. And it was an awesome time, awful hot at times, but these guys were really wonderful in reaching out to the Bengalis with the gospel at various points. For 3 days we did this. Didn't get any rain. It was pretty hot at times, but otherwise the weather was great. Pretty beautiful scenery at times too when the sun starts going down. That's Sanjeev carrying our sleeping bags. He served us mightily, as well as all the Bengali helpers did that went on this trip. Served us so well. We felt very blessed. There's me as Jesus with my crown of thorns. And one of the ladies receiving one of the tracts that we were giving out at the time. We had some skeptics. Some guys wanted to argue, so we turned those over to Sujoy right away. And there's me in the way background talking to the goats. And again, each and every team member participated in the skits, gave their testimony, did a great job of trying to minister the gospel in an area where we didn't know the language and we were not as familiar with the culture. So there's a shot from the boat of one of the folks saying goodbye. Our primary mission, as you see there in the middle of the second page, was to be used of God to assist Grace Community Center in the evangelization of the Bengali people by means of biblical teaching, evangelism, practical helps, encouragement of the national workers, etc. And specifically, you'll see that the ministries that we did there was our primary mission. I believe we accomplished that. I believe we did exactly what we intended to there. The Bengalis felt like we had. And so I think God used us to, do the work that we were called there to do. Our secondary purposes, if you look down there, are more personal in nature. For the team to work together self-sacrificially, developing relationships with the Bengalis, those in the Grace Community Center, to perhaps begin to spread the vision for reaching the Bengalis, first amongst ourselves.
By the people there, it was incredible. We came and with all this preparation and ready to serve them, and they served us in so many ways. It was incredible, and they really changed, I think, all of our view of what a servant's heart really looks like. And so it was really, really amazing, and I encourage anyone to go.
I thought it was really awesome that we all speak different languages, we have different cultures and different, even just how we live, the things we consider rituals or life, but yet the gospel and Christianity, there was a huge similarity between us and them. It was very like-minded, and we all could serve the same God, and it was an honor and just an excitement to worship with them, especially on Sunday. Sunday was the most impacted I felt while I was there, seeing that here we are, I don't know how many miles away from home, completely different culture, and yet it feels like I'm back home preaching, or not preaching, but serving the same God, and that was really cool.
Two highlights for me. One was, I'm going to probably embarrass them a little bit, but one was seeing the tears in Rachel's eyes when we were leaving and having to say goodbye to the kids. That was just really a blessing to me, and I think just was emblematic of the dearness that ministry and Sujoy and Kyung and their family and the workers there and the kids had become to us. And the second highlight was the last night after we were done with VBS. As they do after the VBS, at the end of it every day, we'd get together, we would pray for the kids. They would do the joy of Jishu, victory, in Jesus, shout, and congratulate each other and thank each other for what everybody has done that day, and just basically be a blessing to each other, kind of passing the peace kind of thing. But then that evening after the VBS was done, after all that was done, they gathered us together in a circle. We were all in a circle facing out, and they were facing in, and we're in a circle, and they went around us one by one and thanked us for what we had done. And each person, said something to each person on our team, and that was just really meaningful. And I think, for me it was not a rekindling, but a further establishment of the bond that we have with Grace Community and with Sujoy and his wife and family, and those two things really stood out to me.
I was just really humbled by everybody on the team. I mean, there was such a desire to serve each other, and we really had just an amazing team. And it also, one of the things that stood out to me is just God can use the frailest and weakest and most foolish of people sometimes to take them across the world and preach the gospel to people in ways that make sense to us, but might not make sense to them, and yet God can use our frail ways, and He is strong when we are weak. And that was just, I think that was the thing that stood out to me the most, was we weren't feeling good a lot of times, we were tired, we had so much physical ailments, I guess you could say. It wasn't, nothing was so much that we couldn't function or live or anything like that, but just God worked through our weaknesses to glorify Him.
First of all, I just wanted to say it's very encouraging to hear the stories connected with the pictures. It's just very exciting to see and hear everything involved with that. And, like you've said, God really knows what will come of it in the future, but God can do what He wants. I wanted to ask about what you said, that there were something like 20 plus people during that 3-day trip to the islands and whatnot that would come forward and accept Christ or whatever. And that made sense as well, where you said later about they would be willing to bring Christ into their pantheon of gods. I was curious if it was realistic as a possibility for someone like Sujoy Roy to follow up with those people.
Yeah, Bert's asking about follow-up for the folks that come forward to profess Christ at these preaching points we did. And like I said, it'd be anywhere from 20 minimum up to, I don't know, maybe even 70, 80 people would sometimes come forward wanting to pray, and they go down on their knees and pray to receive Christ as their Lord and Savior. And yeah, they've got to follow up with them to find out, and they do go back periodically and find out, who's willing to begin to meet together in either a Bible study situation and the like, and in the hopes of ultimately planting a church. That's the goal. It's not just to win individuals, but to literally plant churches. And it's a slow, arduous task. You know, there's a lot more spiritual openness there in a sense than there is here, but that there can also be, you know, nominalism as well. So in the sense you can get a lot more people to come to meetings like this, you can get a lot more people to profess Christ, but how many of those actually, you know, stick? You know, how many of those actually go on to live lives for Christ? I think it remains to be seen. We'll see. We trust that we believe some will, and many will, in fact. And so it's encouraging to see at least a responsive heart, and people seem to. There were some people that really seemed to get it when we were there, and we're very, very happy that we'd come. So I just kind of felt like, well, Jesus, you're really going to have to do something here in this whole city and in this individual's life. So I had a kind of a compassion well up in me for the folks there that I hadn't had maybe as much before. And then you also get sort of a righteous indignation that Jesus deserves better than this. You know, he died to bring new life to these folks, and they're still living in this squalor and idol worship. It can kind of make you angry and very sad all at the same time. It's a weird mix of feelings you get. Okay, well, I said I'd quit, and I promised to. So we'll formally close. Do you guys want to do that song?
No, come on. That's not the words.
Daniel,
Actually, I did forget something. We need you to sing.
Sing in your sleep.
I don't know what that was. Go fake it, Fake it. Ready?
3.
Ashi, ashi kushi, kushi amra, Jishu jayagane, mukori to amra. Balabashi como kori boli jai dostuti, balabashi como kori boli jai dostuti, take onu shoru kori, take onu shoru kori. Hashi, hashi kushi, kushi amra, Jishu jayagane, mukori to amra. Ekpa kori, ekshate hattori, ekpa kori, ekshate hattori, tapuri amra, eji tapuri amra, eji Hashi, hashi kushi, kushi amra, Jishu jayagane, mukori to amra.
তোমার সুরে ধ্বনি ঝিলিকি মারে মোরা অন্তরে, সুরের ধ্বনি ঝিলিকি মারে মোরা অন্তরে। আমার ভাটা গাঙে জোয়ার এলো, ভাটা গাঙে